So we finally have a title for the last Outlander book, and it kind of confirms what a lot of fans were already worried about. Season 8 might be way messier than we thought. The show is expected to wrap up in late 2025, which is pretty far ahead of when author Diana Gabaldon plans to release her final novel. And that gap between show and book endings, it's been a topic of concern for a while now. People have been wondering how Starz will tie everything together when Gabaldon's story isn't finished yet. The showrunners have said they're pulling from Book 10 for the final season, but honestly, that could just make things even more complicated. To catch everyone up, Season 7 of Outlander mostly followed the events of Gabaldon's 7th and 8th books, An Echo in the Bone and Written in My Own Heart's Blood. And Season 8 is supposed to cover the 9th book, Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone. But here's the kicker. That book ends on a cliffhanger. So if you're hoping for a neat and tidy conclusion, that's probably not going to cut it. That's why the show's creative team, and Gabaldon herself, has confirmed that parts of her upcoming 10th book will also be included in Season 8. We don't know exactly which parts, but the new title definitely gives us some clues. The book is called A Blessing for a Warrior Going Out, which already feels like it's setting us up for something big and probably intense. Gabaldon explained that the title is a reference to the Blessing of St. Michael, which is typically said for a warrior heading into something significant and possibly dangerous. The moment you hear that, your mind probably jumps to Jamie Fraser. He's the most obvious warrior in the story, and it's safe to assume he's going to face some heavy stuff. That doesn't necessarily mean he'll die, though. Gabaldon made it clear that the title isn't a death sentence. Still, it doesn't sound like smooth sailing either. Jaime facing danger isn't exactly shocking. This is Outlander after all. He and Claire are constantly being pulled into life or death situations, and they've been through just about every kind of hardship possible. But here's the thing. The fact that Jaime is likely headed for a near-death experience in Season 8 is something we already know, thanks to the events in Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone. That's the book where he's essentially killed in battle. So if he's already going to have one near-death moment from the 9th book, and then face another dangerous mission from Book 10, the show might be doubling down on drama, and maybe a bit too much. That leads us to a tricky situation. Season 8 is supposed to fit in the big moment from Bees, which is Jaime getting wounded in the Battle of King's Mountain. Claire eventually finds him and miraculously saves his life. It's a pretty huge moment, and there's no way the show skips it. But it would feel weird if Jaime then immediately heads off on another epic quest from A Blessing for a Warrior Going Out. It could end up feeling repetitive, and that's not great when you're wrapping up an 8-season story. And speaking of repetition, that's something Outlander has been criticized for before. Because the show speeds through the books faster than the novels progress, some story arcs have felt like they're just variations of the same old Jaime and Claire face danger, get separated, and reunite formula. So if Season 8 crams in 2 almost identical traumatic moments for Jaime, it could seriously undercut the emotional weight. They really need this final season to land. No one wants to watch a rerun of previous stakes. That's why there's a chance the writers might combine both of Jaime's big moments into one overarching plot. Or they might skip one entirely. It's hard to say right now, but one thing's for sure, they've got a bunch of story threads to weave together, and they've only got 10 episodes to do it. That's a tall order, even for Outlander. Now, while we're all trying to mentally prepare for the end of Outlander as we know it, there's some relief in knowing the franchise isn't completely going away. The upcoming spin-off, Outlander Blood of My Blood, is on the way, and it'll explore the stories of Jaime and Claire's parents. So while it's a new direction, we're still staying in the family. That said, the tone of the prequel might be pretty different, especially because it doesn't look like there'll be any time travel involved, which is kind of a big deal. Outlander has always leaned on time travel as its central fantasy element. It's what sets it apart from your average historical drama. Claire jumping back and forth through centuries is the magic glue holding the whole story together. So, a show that's completely rooted in the past, with no time travel, feels like a big shift. Blood of My Blood is set in 2 separate time periods, the early 1700s and the early 1900s, following Brian Fraser and Ellen Mackenzie on one side, and Henry Beauchamp and Julia Morriston on the other. These are Jaime's and Claire's parents, respectively. The spin-off is expected to bounce between their two love stories across centuries, but again, no time hopping. At least, not that we know of. According to Gabaldon, Jamie never had the genetic ability to time travel, which means his parents wouldn't either. And as far as Claire's family goes, the author has said neither of her parents traveled through time either. So unless the show takes some big creative liberties, we shouldn't expect anyone to vanish into a stone circle anytime soon. That kind of puts Blood of My Blood in a weird spot. Without the time travel aspect, it risks feeling like a completely different genre. Outlander always had that little sprinkle of magic, not dragons or wizards, but something uniquely its own. It grounded historical fiction with just enough fantasy to make it stand out. If you take that away, you're left with a straight historical drama, which might still be good, but it won't feel the same. Still, there's a possibility that the spin-off finds its own magic in other ways. And here's something that caught the attention of fans who love their symbolism. The two couples, Jamie and Claire's parents, seem to have met or gotten married exactly 202 years apart. That number isn't random. It's actually hugely significant in the Outlander universe. If you think back, Claire first travels through the stones in 1945 and ends up in 1743. That's 202 years. When she goes back to the future and then returns again, the 202-year pattern continues. So the fact that both Brian and Ellen, and Henry and Julia, likely met or married with the exact same time gap is kinda wild. It feels intentional, like maybe these couples were destined to mirror one another in some way. There's even a theory floating around that Blood of My Blood might be where the time travel element first takes root. Maybe there's something in the lives of Jamie and Claire's parents that sets everything in motion. It wouldn't be full-blown time travel in the show, but it could hint at the origins of that ability. It's a stretch, sure, but it would be a cool way to tie the two series together. So while it's sad that Outlander is ending, it's not really the end of the universe. There's still a lot to explore, and Blood of My Blood might surprise us. But when it comes to Season 8, the show has a bunch of challenges to tackle, especially when it comes to Jamie's arc. Balancing two potentially heartbreaking storylines in one season without losing emotional impact is no small feat. And that's that for today's video, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.